Hey. Hello and welcome to today's edition of Route 664, The Road to Human Kindness. I'm Les Winston. I'm the national spokesperson for the Endow America Network Foundation. Our objective is to endow America. We want to make America change from 35 trillion in debt to 35 trillion in endowment, and we have to do that to save the country, to save our financial well-being. And you can do that by one individual at a time. This is an individual economic scheme that will allow you to do whatever it is you need to do to build your own endowment with the best tax savings and most effective way to do it with your own personal economic well-being in mind. This is very important. You need to know how to take care of yourself in the future, and you need to build an endowment to do that. When you build that endowment and you live off that endowment for your entire life, and you have the feeling of being satisfactorily taken care of, you got whatever you need, you're going to live, no matter how long you live, you'll be there, it'll be there for you. Your endowment will never outlive you, and you can never outlive your endowment. You have the good feeling of knowing that your whole plan has worked out, and planning is really important. My guest today is Jude Wilson. Jude is a certified wealth strategist and has an MBA, a Master's in Business Administration, has been working with individuals, families, and businesses to achieve their retirement planning goals for over 25 years. He serves as the chief financial strategist at Centris Financial Strategies, specializing in retirement income planning and tax reduction strategies for baby boomers and retirees. Those are my favorite people. How are you, dude?
I'm doing very well. That wouldn't be because you're maybe a baby boomer yourself, would it?
Yeah, well, you caught me. I try and slip into Generation X, or they won't let me. No, it's a closed society.
I'll give you an invitation. Come join us.
All right, thank you, Jude. So, Jude, what what do you think of the world today as far as the financial well-being financial well-being is concerned? There's a lot of issues with regard to inflation. It's not so easy to plan anymore. People have a hard time saving. What are you finding in your travels as an advisor?
Yeah, so it's a fascinating world that we live in today. There's a lot of great opportunities, but there's a lot of challenges out there. And you named just a couple of them. When we look at the United States as a whole, I've listened to some of your previous podcasts, you have a tendency to bring up the national debt.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'm very familiar with that, and I thank you for bringing up that topic because we as a society, we may hear about the national debt, but we don't really consider how that would affect us in our day to day and particularly in our future. And that national debt is growing every day. I I I love our friends in the media, but sometimes they don't do a good enough job explaining how that could affect us.
So tell us how it can affect us.
Well, there's only three ways to take care of the national debt.
Okay.
And when you look at how fast it's growing, first let's be more specific with the debt. The debt is our obligation as a country. We've got certain things that we have to fund. We've got to fund, and the three major ones that we have to fund are Medicare, Medicaid, our in our military, and and Social Security.
Okay.
Those take up the majority of the debt. And I don't know about you, Les, but I don't believe any three of those are going to be less costly in the future. And so if we're not positioning ourselves to pay down some of that debt, then our military will suffer, which means protecting ourselves as a country. Our senior citizens will suffer potential reduction in Social Security benefits, and our healthcare will suffer potential reductions in Medicaid and Medicare. So I don't want to get political. I never talk about politics, but as a nation, we have to talk about policy and being
Right.
very realistic about policy.
Do we spend more than we take in?
100%. 100%.
And why
So
is that?
there's so
Why doesn't anybody up there in Washington D.C. say, you know what, we don't have the money, we can't do that. It never happens.
So there's the debt and the deficit. the debt is how much we owe, and the deficit is exactly what you just pointed out. How much are we spending above what we're bringing in? Now, you know, in your life, you bring in income. You've got to pay your housing expense, your living expense, and if you're bringing in less than what you're paying, there's going to be a reckoning at some point. And what I'm raising the bell, kind of like Paul Revere, instead of saying the British are coming, I'm saying the taxes are coming. The taxes are coming,
All right.
because there's only really three ways to pay off the debt. Either we raise taxes,
Mm-hmm.
either we grow our economy so more people are successful and more people are paying into the tax base, or we do a combination of the three. And to answer your questions about the politicians, if I knew that answer, I'd be the richest man in Babylon. I
Yeah,
don't
for
know
sure.
why. Because it's not that difficult. You do this in your home. Most people who are listening to this podcast do it in their home. Now, of course, the government is a trillion-dollar entity. They're not like everyday people. And the other big thing is the government could always print money. You can't print money, at least legally.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
So
Big deal.
the
So when
politicians got to
and
get
what
their act
happens when
together.
they print money? What happens when they print money? What does that do?
Well, it could devalue the value of our US dollar. And
Mm-hmm.
and so we have to be very strategic on how we grow this economy, come up with good tax policy. Let's face it, nobody likes to pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
There was a famous federal judge that once said, taxes is the obligation of every American, but it's also the responsibility of every American to use whatever tax legal strategy to reduce their liability. And so that's what we focus on at the firm. We focus on holistic planning, but we also focus on good tax strategy to reduce that liability as much as legally possible.
Okay, so let's talk about strategies. As a certified wealth strategist, I noticed that they just recently on September 4th they added on the designation. I went to look at the designation, and the designation had information about charitable devices. So, are you using charitable devices in your strategies? Are you using it in your work with your clients?
Absolutely. We have what we call our
Mhm.
tax map strategy. And
Okay.
it looks like a regular map, and I'll send it to you so that you can share with your listeners.
Okay.
There's 7 steps on the map where we try to look for opportunities where we can either help clients reduce their current taxable liability or create opportunities for more tax-free dollars for them in the future. Like Roth's accounts that can produce tax-free income for their life.
Hmm.
And so it's really important. One of the things that we commonly talk about is Roth conversion strategies. How to take money from monies that will always be taxable your entire life to money that is never taxable your entire life.
Okay. So, in order to use a Roth strategy, you're moving. We have what we call five tax levels, a diagram of five tax levels showing what happens when you put the money in. Is it going in and after tax or before tax? Is it growing tax free or taxable? And when it comes out, how is it taxed? So the Roth strategy is at the second highest level, at the fourth highest level, just below the highest level, which would be tax free going in, gross tax free, it comes out tax free. Uh,
Right, right, right.
but Roth has some issues where you have some restrictions.
Yeah.
So why don't people just use the Roth, you know, and put everything into a Roth IRA?
Oh, that's such a great question. And you made me smile when you talked about that diagram that you have,
Yeah.
because we have a very similar diagram. We call it our tax funnels to
Okay.
show how money's coming in and how that money is either sheltered or taxed, 3 funnels. But since you have that, I won't go into to that. But to your
Okay.
point about the Roth, you have to be very strategic on how you use a Roth. Many people have heard of it. Many people know that when you put money in the Roth, it's tax sheltered. So you're not going to get a 1099 for money that you make. And
Right.
many people know that when you take money out, it's going to be tax free. But what they don't know is they shouldn't be putting, in most situations, 100% of their money in the Roth, because as you put money in retirement accounts, traditional retirement accounts, 401k, 403b, IRA, you get a current year tax deduction for that. So I don't want to leave that on the table. I don't want to have to give the government extra money that I don't need to.
right?
But in the future, as my retirement account grows, and some point in the future when I retire and take money out, if I take just enough out, I can have that equal my deductions. So now I'm paying zero on the amount that I'm pulling out of my retirement accounts. And it's a dance. You have to know the math and you have to balance it out. And it has to be customized to each individual situation. Because
Right.
if I do that correctly, that means I get to benefit from a tax deduction today. I get to grow my account tax sheltered. And if I do it strategically, I can pull some of that money out and may not have to pay taxes on that, in addition to also having a Roth. So it takes a little bit of math and it takes a little bit of strategy.
So you use the bucket plan. I noticed in your part of the information that received about you, there's a what is the bucket plan?
The bucket plan, in my opinion, is the most efficient way of either saving for retirement or when you're in retirement, creating the ability to have predictable income for life. Our philosophy is that every dollar that you make, you work hard for every dollar. So every dollar that you accumulate should be working just as hard for you. And it's a three bucket approach to make sure that those dollars are categorized, and each dollar has a goal as far as the type of return that that dollar receives or that bucket receives, in a time frame. So you have your now, soon, and later bucket. Now money is money that you need today for income and emergencies. Soon money is money that you may need in the future to provide income when you're no longer working. And your later bucket is your growth bucket, money that we need to really grow and get a better than average return, so that that money is beating inflation and
So
possibly a legacy.
yeah, so that was the thing I was going to raise. The legacy is important because you have a bucket with the government, the Social Security bucket, where everybody's contributing quite a bit of money to Social Security. Employers are contributing on your behalf as well. That's a pretty big bucket that's building all this uh, future income that you're supposed to get from
Absolutely.
Social Security. But there's some issues with Social Security. We don't know what that's going to be like in the future. And we've coined a term called social charity, where we use a charitable bucket as one of the buckets that you're talking about. Do you find that that is workable?
Oh, absolutely.
People
There are,
accumulating in a charitable bucket.
yeah, there are some of us that are so blessed that we will have an excess of assets. And what you do with that excess of assets, it's absolutely your choice. But if you have a charitable intention, then you need a charitable strategy to best utilize those assets for the future. And things like a charitable remainder trust or a charitable remainder unit trust, these things may sound a little bit complicated and above the norm of the most average everyday people. But if we educate ourselves, we can get to a point where we are not only doing good for ourselves, but we're doing good for society by getting tax deductions and leaving some money to benefit a worthwhile charity.
So we call that 664. We That's one of the reasons why the program is called Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness, because 664 is the way we identify those charitable buckets, the Child Remainder Trust. There's also pooled income fund, charitable gift annuities. Those are the three social charity devices that we work with in our Endow America Network Foundation that we want to help people get accustomed to. So we're advising people to do the same thing that you are, where you're using three buckets. Yeah, there's certainly the bucket that you have for today is the one that you're going to be spending to buy your food and your shelter. And then you have
Hmm.
a bucket that you may need soon where you're going to send a kid to college. And it's the
Hmm.
third
Hmm.
bucket that we concentrate on, where you can put money aside and get a tax deduction for it when you put it aside, and it grows tax free and it can come out tax free. Most people don't know that that exists. When you talk about Henry, who's a Henry?
So Henry's is a term that was coined by an author, I think, of It was in the New York Times. It stands for High Earners Not Rich Yet.
Okay.
And I come across these people who are, like as you were saying earlier, maybe Gen X people, and maybe some younger baby boomers who now are at the top of their career. They're earning the most amount of money that they've ever earned before, but they're not at the point where they can say, you know what, boss, thank you very much. I'm done. I've have my net worth and I can use my net worth to replace my income. So these people, their path to retirement may be longer, but they need to be strategic using some of the strategies that you and I just talked about on how they increase that net worth. So at some point in time, they can, instead of trading their time for money, they can buy back their time with the net worth that they've built.
Okay. So are you running into the issue today? I know we were talking about earlier with deficits and the government can print the money, we can't print the money, and a lot of people are using up savings. They're using up they're attacking their retirement plans. It's tough today, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you help those folks? I mean, a lot of people can't be represented or not represented. They don't have the opportunity to talk with somebody that can give them guidance. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, for me in our industry, I love there are certain things about my industry that are difficult, and some of it has to do with government regulation. Uh, for us as an organization to be profitable, we have to work with people who have reached a certain level of success and built up a certain amount of resources. But myself, I come from a very modest background. My parents were Haitian immigrants who, the typical immigrant story, they came to this country, worked hard, and wanted their kids to have a better future.
Mhm.
So I love to be able to donate my time and do educational courses and classes for different organizations to specifically talk to those people who may not have $500,000 or more, but they're just like my parents. They work hard and they want to get to a place where they can retire. So that's the real challenge that I find because of our industry. A lot of us can't have clients that are under a certain level and still be profitable. But these people still need education. They still need strategies. And for instance, I work with Goodwill here in Orlando, Florida,
Mhm.
and we have as part of Goodwill, we have an educational financial structure that we go out and we help people have access to advisors that they can talk to, and it's because it's a non-for-profit. You don't have to pay someone like me. You can see someone who's truly interested in helping you, even though at the stage of life that you're in, it may not qualify for someone like me or Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley. They can work with that individual.
So you hope that they're going to get to the point where it's going to be changed and turned around, right? And that starts
Absolutely.
with education. My guest is Jude Wilson. Jude is a certified wealth strategist, an MBA in Orlando, Florida, and he joined us today on Route 664 to talk about how this all this works. This whole mix is very complicated for a lot of people, and we hope that you'll talk to Jude. Maybe Jude can help you get your three buckets in order and work to solve your problems in the future. Jude, thank you very much for joining us today on Route 664, the road to human kindness.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you for the work that you're doing. You're making a difference in the world.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's what we're all about here, folks. We want you to meet and learn about folks that can help you with financial literacy, financial details, things that you may not be aware of, ways to structure your holdings, way to structure your investments, way to structure your income in the future, what we call endowment. And that's our theory of social security is you got to create an endowment for yourself, and then you can pass that endowment into the community. That's why it's social security is 664 equals E squared. And it may sound a little complicated, but it's really not. We just want you to be able to build the endowment for yourself, and you need advisors like Jude to help you do that. And we certainly appreciate him being on the program today. We're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Once upon a time, in a town quite grand, lived Eleanor with a sharp mind and a steady hand. She had an eye for detail, numbers were her game, and as she neared life's twilight, she sought lasting fame. One day, fate smiled with a windfall so bright. Eleanor saw a chance to set things right. She found Section 664, a tax code so rare. But for Kratz and Krutz, you're gonna need an engineer. An endowment engineer, savvy and wise. She crafted a plan, a legacy in disguise. A trust for her grand twins, income to provide. But with a twist, they must serve, and must they, with pride. The twins took the challenge, and they ran with glee, establishing a center, a place for all to see. For animals and seniors, a haven of care. A place where love and kindness would flourish with flair. So remember, dear friends, as you navigate life, social security can ease your strife. With a heart full of giving and a mind so keen, you too can create a legacy unseen. Plan, prosper, pass on. That's the power of 664.
So thank you very much, Jude, for that wonderful interview. And we're here today in the studio with Wanda, my friend and compatriot in this adventure.
Hey,
How are you?
it's good to be out and about.
Yeah, I thought Jude was great. Jude actually epitomizes what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
He's a dedicated educator who wants you to know how to deal with these things properly and how to become more economically sound. We want to create economic citizens. We want you to become aware of that you're responsible for yourself. Nobody else is going to take care of you. You got to do it yourself. And when you do it yourself, you need to do it the best way you possibly can. And that's why we created the Academy. We are looking for you to join the Academy and get the financial education that you need to be able to do things the best way possible with the least tax, with the most efficiency, and it applies to anybody at any level. So when you enroll in the Academy, you're going to be able to go through courses, and you'll be able to get a really good handle on this. We're also making available podcasts. One of the podcasts is going to be with Professor Les. Going to help to give you a little bit more insight. That's a free podcast. You'll be able to get them on our podcast channel.
That's Professor LES. That's Professor Les.
Yeah, not LESS. Yeah. So we want to be able to communicate with you in a way that is easy to understand, but also a little challenging. We put together videos, and there's tests on the videos, and it's the tests are they're a test. We don't want you to take all this lightly, and we want to make sure that you understand it. And if you really want to become good at it, and you really want to become professional, you can strive to get to the Endowment Engineering Certificate, the certification, where you can help other people and work on a fee basis, and it's a brand new profession. So that's all coming right behind what we're doing now, and we want you to become part of that. One of the other features that we're going to have is the bookshelf with Wanda, which is Leaders or Readers, and that's going to be a segment that's going to be on the podcast as well. And Wanda's with me today. She's got a couple of books she wants to talk about.
Who was it said that? Truman? I forget now. Gosh darn it. Not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. I think it was Truman.
Sounds like Aristotle.
Somebody like that.
So, yeah.
Aristotle. There'll be more Greeky words. Well, but anyway, check out our bookshelf. That's at endowamerica.com. Great books and from great authors about money things and some spiritual things as well, which is my favorite thing to talk about. But
and there's some guidebooks, things that you can use to self-help guidebooks that will help you do what we're doing as well, and make it easy.
Professor Les.
Yes.
Yes. So we've got
We're also
that
going to do a funny
on.
money segment. That's going to be coming back. A funny money segment. That's going to be very interesting because we're going to inject some humor into stuff.
What's funny money all about?
Well, funny money is about changing. It's the alchemy, it's the changing of of tax dollars into usable dollars. Most people don't know that exists, and that's where funny money was originated when we started doing the radio show.
What's the difference between tax dollars and usable dollars?
Well, tax dollars you don't get to use, and usable dollars you do get to use. Tax dollars the government gets to use, and the government
and they're not using them for me. So apparently they're not using that for me. Isn't
they are, but
using
probably 1 cent of that dollar is coming back to you. So you can have much more of that dollar, and most people don't even pay attention to those dollars, especially when you're getting a W-2. You get your check, and you deposit your check, and you never really look at why your check is less than what it should be, and that has to do with some of that funny money. That's that tax dollars, and you can convert those tax dollars using Section 664, the theory of social security, can help you do that. And that's why it's called funny money, because when it's like I was playing Monopoly with my nephew. That's where this really
you guys
came
still
from.
playing?
Yeah, the Monopoly. The game of Monopoly is real simple. You travel around the board, you land on squares, and if you unfortunate, you can go bankrupt and you have all your money's gone, but the other player has it, and that's how they win the game. So my nephew had all the money, and I said to him, "What are you going to do with that?" And he said, "What can I do with it, Uncle Les?" And I said, "You got to put it back in the box." And he said, "Why is that?" And I said, "Because you can't spend it on anything. It's funny money."
Because it's my game.
And then right. And then I said to him, "Suppose I gave you 25 cents of real money for every dollar of that fake money. How much would you give me?" He thought about it for a second and said, "I'll give you it all." And everybody says the same thing, because you're getting something for nothing. And that's what this is all about. You can get 25 cents of real money for every dollar of tax dollars that you would save, that you would not have to spend. And that's the beauty of the whole system of funny money, social security. So some of that, in my career over the last 30 years of doing this, there's some funny anecdotal stories that I would like to share with you, and that's what we're going to do on Funny Money. We're going to talk about those things that have come up over time. And
it's interesting to me that this money thing can be different. Funny money, tax money.
Yep.
It's all not the same money. That's just bizarre, because initially money was just to be an exchange for something or some sort of activity or something.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to carry around my cow, so I've got these pieces of papers and these pieces of coins. It's as much as a cow, but I'll trade you this for that. Is that kind of how? So why did it get all discombobulated?
It became a medium. It's a medium for measuring, I guess. And in fact, they kind of manufacture some of that now with Bitcoin and some of these other, was the whole concept of creating something of value because you identify it as having a value.
Could you have local money? Like we have local credit unions. So wouldn't that be keeping some money in the community? Wouldn't that?
Well, how
is
much
that kind
money
of
actually transact? How much money do people really transact? I mean, most people today are using their credit cards. They use their wallet on their phone.
Invisible money.
It's invisible money, and all it is a measure of going back and forth. It's a measure of saying you have this much that you can use and this much. It's almost like I play Words with Friends, and you get these coins, and somebody said, you got 9,000 coins. What is it worth? It's not worth anything unless you're playing the game. And when you play the game, you can use the coins to do things. You can change for letters. You can do things that are of value for those coins. But otherwise, they don't have any value. I can't give you my Words with Friends coins and use it for spending on anything else. It's just a measure of what your level of success is in a way. That's what really money is. So the more money that you get the more that you're worth, meaning the more that your value is enhanced, then the more of that, whatever it is, you get. And if you have something that is worth something to somebody else, then you can trade that. So if I was getting paid in eggs, for example, and somebody gave me 2 dozen eggs, I now have eggs that I can share with you. I can use that to get something that you have. Maybe you have green beans, so I'm going to give you my eggs for the green beans. And that's really actually what happened. That's how capitalism, the whole start of capitalism was really going back to the Plymouth Rock and the Pilgrims, when the governor said, we're going to, he originally said we're going to have 40 acres and everybody's going to work it together and everybody's going to share and everybody's going to do this. And then what you had is some people didn't work as hard as others. And then people saw them not working so hard that they stopped working hard and the whole thing failed. And then the governor said, you know what, I'm going to give you an acre of land that you work on yourself. You grow something that's worth something to somebody else and you trade it. And that's how we're going to grow this. And that's how it started. So everybody had their own acre. They were working it. They were growing their own stuff. And that was worth something to somebody else and they could trade it.
Not everybody.
Not everybody. Some of them didn't make it. Some of them had bad habits. And so anyway.
Yeah, that too.
This activity that you're enjoying right now, thank you for joining us on Route 664, the Road to Human Kindness. And don't forget to go to our radio station.
Please.
Route 664 Radio.
Such great music.
And watch for the Academy coming up.